Greetings, Karate Illuminati. This is Noah, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the problem of distance or ranges when it comes to karate sport fighting in particular. Now, there are many different competition circuits for sport fighting in karate, and they all tend to have different takes on rules, but generally the most popular is going to be that point fighting. The point fighting competitions that you see are almost exclusively intended to be light contact. Some of them are actually no contact, but the majority are light contact. You're supposed to touch your opponent, and this is supposed to be a demonstration of control. What I have noticed lately, however, is a bit of a shift in what counts as a controlled, proper technique to score. And it has gone in a direction that I feel actually takes away even more of the realism from point fighting. It used to be that in order for a strike to count, you had to touch in such a way that you actually had extension left. If you look at my arm, I can actually drive into the target. You're supposed to touch at a range where you still can extend and then pull back. That's your control. Having the ability to touch, be able to extend more, and choose not to. Those techniques would score. What I'm seeing now, especially with the WKF, which is, of course, blowing up because of karate becoming an Olympic sport in 2020 for the Tokyo Games, is the criteria for example, a punch to score, is that it must make contact at full extension. What this means is that when you touch, you have to have nothing left. My arm is as far as it will go. I have no more penetration left on this strike. To me, this is not control, because I have thrown a full technique and made just contact at the end of it and pulled it back. Now, does it look nice? Yes, you get to see this nice, long, good, clean punch in and out. It looks nice. The trouble with that, though, is that you have nothing left to make impact without overextending. And I believe that's actually why we've seen some of the sloppiness that people are pointing out in things like Karate Combat, where they've brought WKF competitors in, and some of them are wildly overreaching. And the reason they're trying to overreach is because they have now been given the directive to hit hard, but the range that they train at is to touch here. And so they have nothing left but to try to really drive and lose their balance and actually have to overreach and overextend in order to even hit their opponent with any power. If they were trying to just in and out, they could do it, and it would look clean and it would look nice. But they've trained themselves to have that very specific range. Now, that's not all of them, obviously. Many of them have trained in other ways, cross-trained in other martial arts, sparred in lots of different formats, and they don't have that problem. But one of the things that I've seen is some of the high-level WKF competitors, and some other point fighting circuits as well, have that tendency to set their distance at what will score a perfect, nice, clean shot, and they have nothing left when they actually have to hit hard. At least the old way, where you had that extension available to you, yes, you're stopping the punch and you're not getting the same realism because you're not being hit with power, you're stopping it and controlling it. So it's lacking realism in that regard. But at least you're training at a range where you can hit with power. You can get impact from that distance. In my mind, under stress, with adrenaline, it is much easier to lose control. That means not stop your technique, than it is to fix your distance. Distance is difficult. In my experience, under that kind of stress, distancing is very, very hard because tunnel vision stretches things out or brings things in. It's already difficult to judge what distance you're at. So at the very least, if you train to get into the right distance enough, and you just let your control go, then you should make some impact. But if the distance you're used to hitting at is just touching distance, there's no amount of control that you lose that's going to really make that effective without you overextending and opening yourself up to counters. So that's my biggest issue with that type of striking is, yes, both types of point fighting have their drawbacks. Both have benefits. That ability to shoot in and out very quickly, that long-range striking skill is important for a lot of combat sports. But at least one of them has you getting into the correct range for striking, where one does not. Now, that isn't to try to paint every competitor with a broad brush. Obviously, different schools train in different ways, different people cross-train with different people, and so not everyone trains in a way that's going to ingrain that in them quite so thoroughly. But if the only type of striking and the only type of sparring that you do is to get in and touch at full extension where you have nothing left, then you are not going to develop the ability to get into a range where you can actually make the kind of impact that's going to work for you in a full contact fighting situation or even in self-defense. And obviously, sport fighting and self-defense are different, but if you get used to and comfortable with that closer range, that's going to serve you better than always trying to be out here before you throw anything. So these are some things to consider in your training. Are you training for just one type of competition? Then it may not matter for you at all. But if you're training for many types of competition, or for self-defense, or just to be well-rounded, then these are some things to really look at in your training and make sure you account for them. If in one type of training you're always at this long touch distance, in some of your other training you need to make sure that you're working in that close range as well, just to balance that out. Every training method has drawbacks, and every training method can be used to counteract the drawbacks of another training method. So you can use different things to balance that out and get a well-rounded training session in. But these are some points to consider to make sure that you're not missing out on getting that proper distance.